This pathetic, bedridden gamer was just another ugly loser chained to his screens, until he supermaned into the world of eternal nations and woke up as its fallen king. He coughed in air thick with raw magic, blinking away the haze like a man who'd nearly drowned. The isolated loser, once tethered to endless eternal nations grind sessions, found himself inexplicably whole and standing. That metallic sweet breeze wasn't a hospital ventilator. This was a new reality. Memories of leading his ruinous kingdom, Minogra, through nightmare difficulty. Every brutal conquest and whispered tactic flashed through his mind. A calm, familiar voice then cut through his daze. "You've awoken, my king." He spun around, eyes wild. Before him stood a figure carved from midnight, hair drifting like shadows, a two of gratitude, the fallen one of mud. The same entity he had summoned in-game, his loyal commander, now alive before him. The isolated loser felt his heart seize. This was no hallucination. Atu knelt, voice resonating with unholy devotion. "Yes, my king, you cleared the unprecedented nightmare difficulty. You are the legendary Isekai'd." The words hit him like a hammer. Every victory they had shared, every desperate retreat, every whispered confidence. Atu remembered it all. This being was more than code. She was memory incarnate, his right hand and second brain, a disgustingly efficient intelligence that had harbored genuine affection for him. Fumbling, he found his own voice. Is this heaven or some twisted game world? Atu shook her head, eyes gleaming. Neither. This realm feels more like Eternal Nations itself. The edges of her voice trembled with excitement. "Let us begin anew. Build our kingdom once more. Let us, my king." The hopeless waste of space stammered, but the fervor in Atu's tone sparked something in him. The thrill of strategy, the rush of conquest, it surged back. As the newcomer to this realm, he would reclaim his title. No longer the pathetic gamer, but a king reborn. He stood atop a mossy hill, Atu at his side. The great tree ceased stretching into shadowed horizons. "Let us withdraw, my king. Become recluses." The order was chillingly calm. This was how Minogra thrived. Hidden, lethal, unseen. Emergency production. Plaster. A guttural laugh bubbled up. "EW gross." Yet it was necessary. The jabber of his own mind mocked him. The fallen one of mud, bringing ruin. He embraced it. With a swipe of mana, he shared his vision with Atu. 100 mana to spare, 20 used to establish their base. The rest hung like a fragile lifeline. No combat summons yet, no brute force. Just cunning. He scowled at the map, every pixel a potential threat. Atu's voice pulled him back. "Let us scout with long-legged Bugcoin, our glorious subordinate." Without hesitation, he nodded. Even in this twisted reality, his in-game tactics remained flawless. But doubt gnawed at him. An ugly bastard playing king. What could go wrong? Atu emerged from the forest canopy with a report. Thick woods for miles, no wildlife stirring. Perfect for ambushes, perfect for secrets. Yet the absolute silence was unnerving. In Eternal Nations, forests teemed with beasts to farm for resources. Here, nothing stirred. He murmured, there are dark elf settlements nearby. Neutral alignment, slight evil, preferable to outright hostility. Atu's nod was silent, respectful. But the king hesitated. Bordering another nation at this stage is a death sentence. He chewed on the edge of his lip. War was a last resort for barbarians. He would avoid it, at least until his kingdom stood unchallenged. Then came the distant echo, anguished shouts breaking through the hush. Two cries that sent shivers crawling up his spine. "Ayoa!" He and Atu exchanged a glance, hearts ticking like war drums. This was no scripted encounter. This was reality. It was time to act. They found them. Ragged dark elves, haunted eyes sunken with starvation. Survivors of the Mazarum clan, exiled from the central lands of Idragia, driven into the cursed forest of the Great Tree Sea. The air vibrated with sorrow. Atu's voice wavered as she relayed their tale. Hunting for food, chased by unknown hunters, starvation gnawing at bones. The king's heart constricted, a response foreign to his calculated nature. He knelt, summoning a modest cache of apples and pears with a flick of mana. The fruit shimmered into existence, succulent, sweet, life-giving. The dark elf's eyes widened in disbelief. He offered the bounty with quiet reverence. "Take it." Shock, then relief, washed over their faces. The oldest among them, Mortarlow, stepped forward, tears glistening like dew. "Thank you. Your generosity is..." His voice broke. In that moment, the disgusting face of the king softened. Mercy, a concept he'd only toyed with in simulations, felt real. But the echo of Atu's initial warning lingered. An evil being wouldn't give charity without a price. He raised a hand. "No price. The words trembled from his lips. He didn't know why he offered them. Guilt? Compassion? A desire to rewrite the hopeless loser he once was? Atu's eyes narrowed, whispering in his mind, this mercy could be a trap. He swallowed. I felt bad for you. The dark elves bowed, murmuring blessings. The forest's curse seemed to loosen its grip, if only for an instant. Word of the apple miracle spread like wildfire among the hiding elven clan. Mortarlow's trembling voice recounted the legend. Deep within the great tree, lay a sealed evil, the king of ruin, harbinger of apocalypse. The king listened, every hair on his arms standing on end. He had summoned the avatar of ruin in-game. Atu had even hinted at that title. But here, night settled, and the campfire cast flickering shadows across the survivors' gaunt faces. The older elves cowered from legends. Children clutched their bellies, too weak to do more than stare. The monarch wrapped his cloak around his shoulders, staring into the flames. The exiled clan pleaded for shelter, for an alliance, for salvation. Every rational bone in his body screamed no. Minogra thrives in ruin, thrives in hidden dominance. But these are people in need, and something deep inside, the pathetic Gamer King screamed yes. He inhaled sharply, casting a shadowy glance at Atu. Her eyes shimmered with conflicting loyalty, toward the king, toward the ruin she embodied. Atu, raise the wards. His voice was low, resolute. Protect this camp until dawn. She bowed, mana swirling around her gauntlet fists. The air crackled, warding off predators, sealing off prying eyes. They would remain hidden. They return to camp, bellies full, spirits lifted, but suspicion spreads like wildfire. Mortar, the elder, demands to know what was given in return. Nothing, Gia says. Liar. No evil king gives alms freely. But it's not a lie. He didn't offer anything. He just spoke. He just asked. And the king of ruin listened. That's what made it worse. This wasn't the calculated malevolence of a world conqueror. It was compassion from a being far beyond them. How can you respect someone like that? Ro asks. Because he gave to the starving, Gia snaps. Because we're alive. For once, logic loses to survival. Ro breaks. You did well. It's the first kind word Gia's heard in days. Back in the shadows, Tax slumps. He used mana. He shouldn't have. But he saw them. Those starving children, those desperate eyes. And he couldn't stop himself. Atu confronts him. What did you gain from that? Nothing. I just couldn't help it. And suddenly, the merciless servant looks betrayed. They're at odds. She's not angry. She's hurt. He notices. All right, I'll do anything you say. She flinches. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unfair. I need you, Atu. Those words rip her apart. I'm sorry. I questioned you. That was unworthy of a servant. And now they're closer than ever. Because while the world may burn and gods may fall, the king of ruin has something stronger than any army. A single, loyal heart. She teases him. You couldn't talk to the dark elves? I froze. That's just roleplay, she smiles. Maybe it is. Or maybe he's just socially broken. Either way, he's not alone anymore. And with her at his side, the world's about to remember the name they forgot the first time around. Isekai'd, king of ruin. Leggy Bug returns, antennae twitching, just as Tak begins to speak with the dark elves. They need more food to survive, yet they can't carry it all in one go. Tak glances at Atu, his war maiden, his second brain. He admits he's a walking disaster in face-to-face talks. Nervous and fumbling, he almost blurts out everything wrong with his plan. But Atu, that perfectly polished nightmare unit, offers to handle negotiations. She bows, voice smooth as poison, leave diplomacy to her. He hesitates, wondering if he might regret surrendering the spotlight, but nods. He's counting on her. Enter Mortar Kaldam Mazarum, the dark elf delegation leader. Regal, ancient, skeptical. He bows stiffly, offering formal thanks for the food. Atu replies with that grand flourish no mortal diplomat could match, unveiling Tak's titles. Isekai'd, king of ruin. Mortar's brow twitches. He's never met a ruler like this. No flowery courtesies, no hidden demands, only blunt truth. He calls the king Ira, or Isekai'd if formality is needed. The air buzzes with discomfort. He's grateful, wary, and on the brink of collapsing under polite pressure. Mortar Kaldam dares to ask, how can we repay this debt? The ancient elf expects demands of blood, soul, tribute. Atu counters smoothly, no need for tribute. The tribe lacks resources to craft a gift worthy of their king. Better to part now, she says, so they leave unburdened. The mood shifts. Mortar's face drains. He senses that the king of ruin's generosity masks something. He tries to press for guarantees, but the offer to leave hangs like a blade. He stutters, caught between suspicion and hunger. In a quiet aside, Leggy Bug reports the negotiations are flimsy. Atu whispers to Tact that perhaps they should kill the lot, strip their heads, and mount them on pillars for deterrence. All business as usual. Tact shivers, shaking his head. He won't spill elf blood yet. But the thought flickers in Atu's eyes. Demonic efficiency, ruthless logic. He drags her back. Not now. Not until they know more. Even a merciful action from him might be twisted by these exiles. Atu adjusts tact. Instead of unilateral charity, they'll accept a fair exchange. Tribute in return for food. Small, symbolic comfort from mortal pride. Mortar perks up, relief flooding his features. He bows again, voice trembling with gratitude. The old elf confesses he secretly feared being toyed with by evil spirits. Atu's dismissive sneer at that fear only strengthens his resolve to trust. Tact watches, heart pounding. Innocent trust from those starving souls unsettles him far more than any battle. Mortar Caldam finishes, ready to leave. Suddenly, Tact stands. He draws a faint line in the dirt, invisible but potent. Becomes citizens of Minogura. The crowd gasps. Citizenship means allegiance, identity, irrevocable change. Atu's voice rings out. Dark elves aren't born good or evil. Join their nation, and the world's system will align them with evil, just as Tact decreed. Mortar swallows. This is no mere alliance. It's metamorphosis. Hearts pound. Should they step across that line? Lives as refugees or as razors at the king's side? The dark elves hesitate. Images flash. Empty camps, starving children, endless exile. Finally, one voice pierces the silence. An elder woman credits survival to Tact's kindness. A second, then a third, nodding heads of worn warriors. They cross the threshold. A hushed chant rises. We serve the King of Ruin. In that instant, something stirs in the air. Low, throbbing energy of moral alignment rewiring. Faces shift. The old suspicion melts into fierce loyalty. The tribe of exiles has transformed into citizens of destruction. Moments later, their eyes glaze. Empathy for their own children replaced by a thirst for power. Whispers of regret, pain, rage ricochet through their minds. But Atu hushes them. This is the joy of protection. A mad smile from Mortero. The hunger in Gia's eyes cools into calculated ambition. No more victims. Now, they'll be hunters. Tact gazes at his new subjects, feelings of guilt and pride battling inside him. He's the King of Ruin, yet he's just a former loser who used his last mana to feed strangers. Days pass. Life within the great tree, sea, takes shape. Walls of bark and bone rise. Tact studies a battered map handed over by Mortero. Two massive nations, Quoria in the west, a human realm of pure light worship, and an elven land of nature's grace. Both are pledged to absolute good. Across the board, they're mortal enemies of Minogura. Spying on two superpowers? The difficulty is absurd, like setting nightmare difficulty on a realm already on nightmare. But there's a twist. The core population of Minogura, stupid humanoids, breed fast but lack research prowess. Enter the Dark Elves, sly, magical, quick learners. Their arrival could fill the nation's biggest weakness, intellectual production. Tact's lips curl. Quoria and the Elven realm might be blind to his next move. Footsteps crackle through leaves. Gia, once the hunting warlord, strides forward flanked by Emul, his deputy. Emul bows stiffly, a scholar of foreign lands and myth. Gia grins, teeth sharp as blades. He reports on scouting. They map terrain, enemy positions, resource nodes. Emul adds whispers of ancient legends, teasers about hidden ruins, magical anomalies. Tact leans forward. This intelligence is priceless. Immediately, he announces roles. Mortero to handle administration and magical research, Gia to command warriors, Emul to guide foreign affairs. A single nod binds them to duty. The new ministers burst with energy. Gia roars his oath. He'll slay all enemies, impale heads on spikes, let the world tremble at Minogura's might. Even the trees shiver. But then Tact raises a hand. His voice is calm, impossibly so. The king desires peace. War is an ugly tool, to be used sparingly. Gia freezes. He thought this was a nation of endless slaughter. Atu glances at Tact, eyebrows raised. The King of Ruin, a pacifist? The contradiction sends shivers through the council. But Tact will bind them. First, grow strong, then conquer. Tact urges rest, but his ministers are workaholics. Council Hall bursts into chaos as everyone clamors to gather resources. He orders land development while preserving the forest. No wholesale clear-cutting. Mortero suggests treehouses woven into living trunks. MO demonstrates magical reinforcement techniques to encourage tree growth around structures. The forest hums with acceptance, its ancient magic bending to Iratak's command. In minutes, wooden scaffolds spiral skyward. Worm-eaten logs become sturdy pillars. Sap-rich bark transforms into fortified walls. The first true city of Minogura takes root without killing a single tree. Mortar Row explains replanting, the art of sowing new saplings where old trees fell. Tax innovations speed growth by centuries with a flick of mana. The council marvels. The idea that every resource harvested could be replenished casts a new light on war. You don't destroy, you harvest responsibly. Visiting Korea or the Elf Realm would hear only tales of armies ravaging lands. Here, in Minogura, even war can be sustainable. Then someone asks about advanced magic. 6 elemental principles, military spells, fortress magic. Mortar smiles sheepishly. They only know 4 elements. Their magical science lags behind Origin nations. But Tact only grins wider. A blank slate to experiment on. He promises breakthroughs that will leave other realms scrambling to catch up. The council's eyes burn with anticipation. A hush falls. Emol plucks a purple grape from a vine growing in the city square. She bites, eyes widening. "The king made this too," she whispers. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. The grapes and apples from their first encounter weren't incidental. They were crafted by emergency production, a forbidden technique that can conjure any object at massive mana cost. Tact explains he could create gunpowder, metals, even crude oil if he dared. The raw power hums in the air, a promise of weapons and wonders. Atu tilts her head, half amused, half worried. This power is overkill. Yet she knows it's the keystone of their future. A new fear strikes Tact. The power to conjure anything means a blind spot. If he can make guns, why stop there? Necromancy? Time magic? He reassures himself. He's in control. But the weight of that power presses on his soul. He's not the same fragile shell that woke here days ago. He's a god among saplings. The citizens look to him with awe and terror. And now he can't hide his face from their yearning eyes. Atu senses his conflict. She steps close, voice low. "It's all right, my king." Her dark eyes are mirrors of his soul, pride and doubt, anguish and ambition. He nods, resolve hardening. A kingdom isn't built on mercy alone. It needs vision, ruthlessness, a touch of ruin. He raises his hand, feeling the mana surge. No more crumbs from the sky. He will craft the future with his own blood and sweat. And if the world shatters under his rule, so be it. The wind whispers through the newly planted saplings. The sound echoes with the promise of a nation unlike any other. In the half-light of dusk, Atu stands beside Tact, the ugly bastard who supermaned his way to supremacy. The hopeless waste of space has found purpose. The King of Ruin watches over a city born of mercy, magic, and madness. And somewhere in the distance, the drums of war softly begin to beat. The so-called Holy Kingdom of Qualia decided to show off their ultimate weapon, a girl. But not just any girl. A flaming saint with eyes full of divine judgment and flames hotter than your average Simps search history. Some poor bastard tried to test her, saying she didn't look like much. Yeah, big mistake. Seconds later, the battlefield went full barbecue. Her enemies were cremated like greasy meat sticks, their sins roasted in holy flame by the legend known as Sorina, the cremation saint. A living war crime with the delicate charm of a nuclear warhead in a wedding dress. And in case that wasn't spicy enough, the political slimebags in Qualia were busy squabbling over divine omens like it was office gossip. When Saint Sorina dared suggest going to the Dark Continent herself, they pulled the "You're not a village girl anymore" card. Pathetic. They had no idea what kind of apocalyptic horror awaited on that cursed land. Meanwhile, back in the dark wonderland of edge and evil, Lord Tact, still mentally 3 steps away from an incel Reddit thread, was getting worshipped like a pervy messiah. The Dark Elves had built his throne room, and their loyalty dripped thicker than the sweat off a gamer's back during a PvP match. And what did they gift their king? Clothes. Real royal threads. No more pajamas, no more crusty t-shirts. He was now dressed like a true Dark Lord, with enough drip to drown a fashion blogger. His reaction? A nod. Cool. Stoic. Dead inside, but also moved. Then came the meeting. Big plans. Darker schemes. Internal development was the new national king. Lord Artud, a master of proposing psychotic brilliance with a straight face, dropped the idea of a human meat tree. Yes, a tree. That grows meat. That tastes like human. What the hell? Apparently, it's nutritious. Tastes like jerky. The elves were a little concerned it might traumatize some folks, because, human meat. But whatever. Trial planting begins. And Tact? He didn't even flinch. This wasn't just a new nation. This was the world's first fantasy cannibal startup. Next up, magical R&D. Because when you're a cursed nation of degenerates, you need fireworks. Military magic became the priority, mass effect spells that could turn battlefields into craters. Isekai'd practically popped a magic boner just talking about it. And the king? He approved with a smirk that screamed, "I'm totally using this to flex on my enemies." Strategic level magic research began. The team was lit, literally and figuratively. When military talks hit, Isekai'd threw a tactical curveball: skip building armies. Too expensive, too obvious. Instead, create a hero. One hero, a singular, cracked-out monstrosity so overpowered it could slap armies into next week. Heroes are cheap to maintain, terrifyingly efficient, and, best of all, discreet. One summon, one unstoppable gigachat of war. As the meeting wrapped, national mana kept flowing like the sweat under Tact's new royal collar. Happy citizens meant a stronger nation, and Tact, grinning like a horny warlord on meth, declared he'd lead them to the peak of happiness. They didn't know it yet, but their king wasn't just a loser from another world. He was a cheat code incarnate. Back in Qualia's faction of holy hypocrites, two knights prepped for a mission into the Dark Continent. One was stiff, one was loose, and both were dragging emotional baggage heavier than their swords. One knight clutched a wedding ring like a prayer. The other teased him about snoring out his wife's name. Bro moments mixed with impending doom. Neither really wanted to go, and both knew they were likely walking into a demonic hellhole disguised as a continent. Then came their ringer, a grizzled veteran, rougher than Dragonhide, dumped into the squad last second like a political middle finger. They were being set up, and they knew it. Lord Tact, still awkward as a naked snail at a formal ball, did a tour of his growing kingdom. Housing sucked. Meat trees thrived. Food was secure. Magic labs were popping off. Water sources were being tested. The elves were glowing with gratitude and dark mana. The undead startup nation was thriving. And Tact, he felt it. For the first time since he got Isekai'd like a fat otaku missile, he wasn't just some slimy background character. He was a ruler. Then came the forest spring, tainted, corrupted, glowing with cursed vibes. Tact sniffed it, licked it, practically bathed in the stuff. Normal people would have puked. But this wasn't normal. This was evil country. The cursed land empowered the wicked and smacked the neutral. Since everyone in Minogra was now evil aligned, they were basically swimming in stat buffs. Water? Delicious. Air? Electrifying. Soul? Corrupted in all the right ways. One elf pointed out a problem. Cursed land looks evil as hell. If the whole country turned black and glowing, it'd be hard to hide. Military might? Necessary. But Tact wasn't worried. He had a plan: unleash a hero. Because nothing says stealth like a one-man extinction machine. Surprise twist. Tact's goth goddess companion, revealed she was a hero too. Not as strong as before, but still a walking apocalypse with legs. Heroes don't even need to fight. They just exist and level up by breathing. She nuked a forest to prove a point. Everyone clapped. The elves begged to build a palace. Tact, still humble like a broke simp, said he'd live like them. But they weren't having it. No king of darkness sleeps in a commoner's bed. So he caved. Palace plans were greenlit. Floating fortress dreams took root. Flying cities became the national wet dream. Because if anyone could make it happen, it was Tact, the horny Isekai'd cockroach who somehow became their god. The elves swore fealty again. Body and soul. Glory to Tact. Prosperity to Minogra. Their faith wasn't built on propaganda or shiny ideals. It was raw, filthy devotion to a man who gave them hope in hell. Tact, once a loser who couldn't even order food without anxiety, was now the backbone of an empire. Meanwhile, on the edge of the world, the Holy Knights advanced. Ashira, Qualia's pawn, muttered that this was just the opening act. She was right. The pieces were moving. The saints burned. The cursed land grew. And Tact's dominion would soon shatter the balance of the world. A nation born of shadows, perversion, and cursed meat jerky was ready to take over the earth. While the northern part of the Western Kingdom got wrecked by barbarian tribes and wild-ass uprisings, a bunch of greasy-fingered mercenaries gathered in a tavern, slurping booze like their dignity had already been pawned. The chaos up north? Massive. Entire city-states face-planted into oblivion, and even the Holy Maiden had to haul her divine booty up there to calm the mess. But these sweaty mercs? They were more concerned about getting wasted than fighting witches. Yeah, witches. Some whispered rumors that a single one might have caused all that carnage. But that sounded too anime to be real, right? Still, with everyone too scared to head north, the boss dragged them south toward the Daijukai Forest, aka the giant rotting armpit of the continent. No one knew what was out there. Just rumors, just whispers, the kind that make you wet the bed and call it holy water. As the boss and his sorry bunch slurped beer like pigs at a holy trough, they dropped spiritual quotes from St. Aros to justify their alcoholism. Cast off your holy duty, one chugged. Apparently, divine scripture was their excuse to get blackout drunk before marching into a cursed murder forest. One fresh-faced holy knight, Ronius, clearly still wearing his moral virginity like a badge, tried to guilt them with righteous speeches. But even the old man in charge, Lord Burzel, told him to chill. After all, they all had families. No one was in a hurry to get themselves impaled by a surprise forest banshee. Then the king summoned them. And if that didn't raise a massive, throbbing death flag the size of a demon's dong, nothing would. Meanwhile, in the deep crevice of anime villainy, Lord Takuto, the introvert turned overlord with the swag of a hospitalized NED, unleashed his first monstrosity. A chunk of human flesh transformed into a long-legged insect that skittered across the floor like Satan's toe fungus. The cultists lost their minds, bowing like simps at a demon idol, convinced Takuto was some divine birthing machine. His fake-it-till-you-make-it act worked flawlessly. Even he didn't know how it worked. He just dumped magic and meat into a ritual and poof. Bugs. Like some black magic cooking show. Now that their demonic petting zoo had its first resident, it was time for the next big plan, summoning a damn hero. And not just any hero. Isla, queen of all insects. The only waifu in the whole demon compendium who didn't have world domination kinks or nuclear-level red flags. She boosted insect armies, summoned worker bugs, and didn't scream about chaos every 5 seconds. A total W. Back in his evil IKEA palace, Takuto was munching down unhealthy junk like a stress-eating raccoon. Atu, his trusty sidekick and possibly the only sane being around, told him to chill on the processed sodium bombs. But Lord Takuto, still mentally parked in hospital food trauma, said screw that. Their insect army was multiplying. The palace was under construction. The Dark Elves were hauling bricks like cursed Minecraft NPCs. And now Takuto wanted a war council with Mortar and his gang to talk strategy, because their creepy insect scouts had finally sniffed out the humans nearby. A town, not Qualia, thank the devil. A neutral attribute outpost that hadn't noticed them yet. But if anyone did, it'd be them. And if they were from an all-attribute nation, it would mean instant war, and this pathetic corner of peace would turn into a flaming bloodbath. Takuto, in classic dumbass overlord fashion, opened his mouth and said the one thing you should never, ever say in anime, it'll be fine. Seconds later, boom, flag raised. Just as Atu predicted, a fully armed group of meathead holy knights strolled into the Daijukai forest like they were hunting Pokemon. The cursed woods were supposed to repel life, but these clowns walked right in, weapons swinging, egos inflating. If subtlety were a virtue, they'd all be shot on sight. They had to be turned away quietly. But if not, then things would get spicy. The first one to confront the holy parade was a girl. No, a dark elf with serious, I've seen some sh*T energy. Calm, composed, and clearly too smart to be caught dead anywhere near these faith-blinded zealots. She warned them. She told them they were disturbing peace. But the Holy Knights, with Ronias and Burzel at the helm, smelled something suspicious and started grilling her like she'd just stolen their holy glizzy. Then the knightly himbo Ronias dropped the nuclear truth. They were here because of a divine prophecy. Yeah, not just a hunch. A full-on, God said bad stuff's in your forest prophecy. And that was heresy. Straight up leaking state secrets to a random elf girl? Ronias just violated the entire Knight Code in one sentence. Even Burzel looked like he was about to slap the taste out of his mouth. But in a twist no one saw coming, Burzel told everyone to fall back. The elf had sworn peace. The forest had no threat, at least none that was their business. They turned back, and in a perfect anime betrayal speedrun, Ronias instantly pulled a power move. Like a greasy rat climbing out of a priest's toilet, Ronias declared Burzel unfit for command. The bastard actually tried to flex authority, tossing around words like abandonment of duty and mocking the gods like he hadn't just broken half the divine law himself. He stripped Burzel of his rank, declared himself commander, and ordered the march straight into the Daijukai. The rest of the crew? Dumb as bricks. They followed him without question. Even Valko betrayed his boss with the loyalty of a cockroach in heat. Burzel, forced to stand down, could only watch as Ronias stormed the sacred land, all because he couldn't keep his prophecy in his pants. One final plea came from the elf girl. She begged them not to proceed. But these ego-fueled holy knights weren't hearing it. The moment Ronias raised his weapon to threaten her, reality snapped like a broken hymen. Boom. A witch appeared. A real, capital W witch. And not your broomstick anime cutie. This one exploded into reality with the subtlety of a demon orgy. Ronias got flung like a ragdoll in a blender. Screaming, chaos, magical overload. Everything you'd expect when an idiot pokes the wrong god. Everything had gone to hell. The peace? Shattered. The dark elves? Furious. The holy knights? Caught with their holy pants down. And somewhere in the shadows, the witch watched, grinning.